Welcome to the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. Your adventure into the world of comic book movies starts here.
Greetings, citizens, and welcome to another adventure of the Real Comic Heroes Podcast. My name is Travis.
And I'm Patrick with our special guest today.
I'm assuming that's me then. I just didn't. Maybe somebody special came on. I was excited. So I'm Jason from as of most recently the CrossFit Buff podcast. That is not as strange as it sounds, but maybe at the end I'll tell you what that is.
Nice.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. I mean, I think I put my name on the list a long time ago, so it's taken a while, but happy to be here.
Well, right on. Happy to have you.
We did start in the 50s, so it's been a long trek to get to 1991.
I thought we were in 1938, so I'm...
Oh, my apologies. Yes, of course. I've broken the magic, damn it. Oh, man. So, yes, we are here for the Rocketeer, and I did not mean for that to rhyme. All right. So, yeah, 1991's Rocketeer.
Yeah.
It's been a while for me. I don't know about you guys, but
I think I watched this one, maybe 5 years ago. Hard to say, but it's not one that I've watched a ton. So we can certainly get into our history with the movie, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking initially I wrote down between 15 and 20 years ago. Okay. And then I did the maths again and I was like, no, I think it's longer than that. So I remember watching it like on the kind of VHS recorded off the TV at my grandparents' house. Nice. Like, oh, here's a movie that you might be able to watch. Okay, great.
Yeah.
And have not revisited it since.
Okay.
But occasionally it's popped into my mind over the course of 25 years.
Yeah, I think I'm in the same boat. I probably saw it maybe the year it came out or a year after on VHS, and probably my dad liked it or something because it was old and he's old, so it made sense. But yeah, I think I chalked it up to like there was a weird era in movies where they kept like going back to the 40s and stuff. I don't know if anyone's seen Forever Young. It's a Mel Gibson movie.
Yeah, I thought about that one too.
So I kind of lumped those two together in my brain, I noticed, because watching this, I was like, oh, I thought this was in that Mel Gibson movie. So, I don't know. Maybe I just dismissed it as some, like, old person comic book movie, and being a Disney movie, I became too cool for it in my teenage years, so I kind of let it go by the wayside, maybe. But pleasantly surprised on this viewing.
Well, I think this is one of those movies that, it didn't make a huge impact when it came out, and then it just got forgotten.
Yeah, I think they said that there was initially like the intention for there to be a sequel, and then just because it didn't blow up at the box office or really do anything, they quietly moved on.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember watching this with my dad. We must have rented it on VHS. And I remember really enjoying watching it with him, and he enjoyed it. We had a good time with it. But then I think, like you guys, it just came and went and never really revisited it. And I think I remember its 20th or 25th anniversary. They kind of made a big deal about it, releasing it on DVD or Blu-ray, and trying to get some buzz going for it. So it was just one of those movies that I would think about fondly, but never, went back to. But yeah, this was fun, just getting to watch it again. So,
well, I think I might have pinpointed some of the issue because taglines, not too many and not too great.
Okay,
one's a tagline, one's more of a synopsis, really. So I don't know if maybe marketing wasn't behind this, but
I don't think it was. But go ahead.
Compared to Dick Tracy, which I could remember way more advertisement for. This one I don't recall much of anything. But yeah, tagline. First one's kind of a synopsis. It's just 3 years before the United States declares war. Cliff Secord leads America's first battle against the Nazis. That's pretty much a synopsis, not so much a tagline.
Yeah.
And then you got an ordinary man forced to become an extraordinary hero.
That's fine.
Generic.
I mean, it's very generic. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I thought there'd be like some kind of rocket related comment, but
well, I was going to say that doesn't necessarily tell you which character in the movie they're talking about.
very true. Yeah.
Was that all of them?
Yeah, that's it.
Man, yeah.
And it's Disney, so I'm kind of surprised.
Well, I was reading about Dave Stevens is the creator of The Rocketeer, and he was on board as I read, hands-on producer. So he was very involved in the movie. And I read that he was pretty let down by the marketing. Even he noticed that they didn't really do much with this movie. He said he didn't like the poster, which poster is beautiful. It's like this Art Deco style image of the Rocketeer, but his point was that doesn't tell me anything. You know, if you're just a normal, average moviegoer and you see that poster, it's not telling you anything. And especially if it was paired with that tagline of, an ordinary man becomes an extraordinary hero, like, okay. I mean, so I'm guessing Disney just did not put much effort into the marketing.
See, that's funny, isn't it? Because I agree with you that poster is, I think the poster is maybe the best thing that they have. It looks beautiful. And it's funny, isn't it, how we go full circle, because I think now you go back and you look at things that came out, 10, 15 years ago, and maybe you see the trailer or you see a poster and you're like, wow, they really just threw everything on that poster, didn't they? Tried to tell you as much as possible in one poster or in one trailer. And now we quite like to go not, having an idea like that. I think, okay, he's a guy with a rocket on his back. That tells me it's not going to be a super grounded in reality film. It's some kind of superhero-esque action movie. All right, I'll go and check it out. Yeah. Whereas I think if you have kind of too much information, you're quite often like, probably not for me, or you're less likely. And I don't know how many movies were coming out at that time. I don't think it was as flooded as now. So
sure,
I refuse to accept those as legitimate reasons. Although I feel, probably Disney didn't do a big marketing push. Do you know what? This is funny. I didn't know it was a Disney movie until rewatching it. And it started and it came up Disney. And I was like, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little different than, when you think Disney, especially back then, you're thinking animated or cheesy family movie, not action movie or Disney action movie.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it, just how you thought of Disney back then.
Yeah. I was a little bit surprised because I think a lot of Disney's live action movies used to go under the banner of, I think, Touchstone Pictures was their kind of live action, but still family friendly umbrella. So I was a little bit surprised not to see kind of that production logo at the start. So, and that could be just maybe Disney has maybe scrubbed that off of there now that it's, for me, it was available on Disney Plus. I know, Jason, that's not available for you as of this recording until a few days from now. But
I've signed up. I'm ready. It's Tuesday. It's coming out Tuesday. I'm ready.
Right on. Where did you watch it, Patrick? Do you have Disney Plus?
Yeah, that's where I watched it.
Cool. So yeah, let's jump into actually talking about the rest of the movie.
So there was something I looked up right before we started because I jotted down the note.
Sure.
And it was the music,
and
I was kind of right with what I heard. When I was listening to it, I was like, okay, this music sounds very Field of Dreams-esque, like that score that is in this movie. It's very dramatic and old-timey kind of.
Yeah.
And it turns out he was a conductor for that movie, James Horner.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then as I started watching the movie, I'm like, okay, this feels like other period pieces from this time. And I saw the director's other films, and I'm like, holy cow, this guy's niche is this era. Because it's like first Avenger, Captain America, Indiana Jones, October Sky, like all these movies.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, these guys are in their wheelhouse, and I can tell. It's perfect.
Yeah, Joe Johnston has a pretty excellent career.
Yeah.
He hasn't directed a ton of movies. I do have the list of them. Before this, he did Honey, I Shrunk the Kids in '89, and then Rocketeer, Pagemaster, Jumanji, October Sky, Jurassic Park 3, then Hidalgo, and then he took a little break and did The Wolfman in 2010, and then Captain America. So overall, like, his career is, as a director, is, I'd say, mostly hits. But then, like, the rest of his resume, as far as production and like art direction and special effects and all that stuff, he's a Lucasfilm guy. Like, he was involved in Star Wars, like all the way back in '77, and Empire and Raiders of the Lost Ark and Return of the Jedi, Temple of Doom. I know we talked about him in Howard the Duck. Like, he was the I guess production designer for the ultralight, like, flight sequence that Howard the Duck goes on. Like, that was kind of his. He directed that section of the movie, I guess. So, like, his pedigree, just outside of directing, is impressive as hell too. So, I think he came up with the design, or maybe some of the other aspects of Boba Fett, which
jeez,
kind of makes sense, with a character like the Rocketeer. But
sure, yeah, another rocket guy. Yeah, makes sense.
So is this a Boba Fett prequel? Is this what we've got?
Yeah.
Boba Fett was in a galaxy far, far away. Was it a long time ago as well?
Yeah.
Okay,
hold on.
This is Boba Fett's offspring.
Yeah.
He went around the galaxy and impregnating various species, like Ego the Living Planet or whatever. That's funny.
Yeah.
And both have the same amount of control over their rocket, I can tell.
Yeah. I love that it, like, has the hand controls built into the glove. I've just always loved that.
Is it? It's just an on and off button, right?
Yeah, but he did say PV does at some point in the movie say that he designed a pressure sensitive, like a gas pedal. So, like, you press harder, you'll go faster, that sort of thing. So
he just hadn't figured that part out.
Not at the start. Yeah.
Well, he just seemed to go and then coast and then hope for a landing. So that was one of my questions. Is it just 100% or nothing? Like, just, yeah. I'd like to see. That's why I'd like to see a sequel, is to see him actually learn how to use it properly.
Yeah.
Because
that's one of my notes later. But
yeah.
It kind of starts off with this, beautiful sequence of getting this plane ready to launch, and aviation is definitely a huge part of this movie, understandably so. And then you got the kind of mixing that in with the gangsters being chased by the cop or the FBI. I guess there's a cop there in that sequence too.
Yeah, for a second.
Cop gets in the way or something. So.
Yeah.
It's a fun way to start a movie, and it's interesting. Like, we just talked about Dick Tracy not too long ago, and so the difference in, like, the look and feel is completely different. But I think there's something about movies in the late '80s and '90s that did period pieces better than I think you can do them now, or certainly in the mid 2000s. I kept comparing this in my head to, like, Sky Captain, where you could tell everything was set on a green screen, and they faked all of the world around the actors. And here it just, I believe that we're in 1938 Los Angeles, in the valley and all that stuff. So. Yeah, I think just these older movies like this just nailed the look and feel in a way that I think is harder to replicate now.
Do you think it's because they were just maybe a bit more earnest about it back then? Like, okay, we've set it up to look like the 30s or the 40s, here it is. And I feel things like Sky Captain and ones like that, there's always a kind of a nod and a wink to yeah, we know it's not that time period, but here we go. Look, and it always looks a bit too, I don't want to say polished, but it looks fake. Do you know what I mean? That there's a kind of,
yeah.
Whereas I feel back then they were just like, oh, we've set it all up. Let's just pretend we're there. And they just, I feel it's almost, we're doomed by our own kind of, the more we can tweak things and adjust them, we kind of keep fiddling to the point that then we ruin it. I feel it's a little bit like that,
I think that there's an aspect of it that like we're too reliant on technology today. And I think if you're shooting this movie in 1990 or 91, the process of making a movie is probably a lot closer to what they did in the 30s and 40s than today, because they're still using a lot of sets. They're still, even in 1990, and I know technology had advanced a lot since the 30s and 40s, but I think the way you make movies didn't change that much. Whereas now everything is, very reliant on digital and CGI backgrounds and, sets that don't really exist. Whereas here they might be using some of the same sets and same sound stages that were being used. I think that's why I love the scene of like later on with Neville Sinclair, making a movie in the movie. Like that's a lot of fun because it just feels legit. So I think there's a little bit of it like.
They're using a lot of the same techniques, the same
I think
same methods, so it's much easier to, we're going to put a fake wall here, okay, and we're going to make it look like a fake wall from the 30s and not a fake wall from the 90s. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
As opposed to we're going to put a green screen here, and then we've got some tech guys. They're going to come in. They're going to design for you this beautiful, the most incredible wall you've ever seen, and you're like, okay, it's unnecessary. Yeah. Just put up a piece of canvas. It's fine.
Yeah.
Although a green screen probably wouldn't fall down and stab someone, so that's a danger of old filmmaking I learned in watching this.
I have some questions about that when we get to it.
Yeah, that whole scene, I just thought I was watching The Princess Bride for a second.
Oh, yeah.
To be honest,
I kept waiting.
I just wanted to watch the Laughing Bandit? Was that what it was called?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking for that. Can we do that next?
Sure.
I kept waiting for him to say, my name is whatever the heck, and you killed my father.
Indigo,
yeah. I think it was the hair.
Oh, yeah.
The hair and the swordplay just put me in that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also wonder if it's maybe it wasn't that far removed from the time period, so there's actually people around that, could tell them how things were made back then.
Could be. And another thing, like the material that it's based on, like Dave Stevens created The Rocketeer in 1982, but I think if you grabbed someone off the street and said, did you know that The Rocketeer is a pulp hero from 1938, along with like Flash Gordon and Doc Savage and characters like that, they'd probably believe you because it just feels like this is a comic that would have existed, from the beginning of comics.
I have a question about the comics. I can't remember when you did the character breakdown.
That was
a few weeks ago. I can't remember if you said you'd read any of the comics or not.
I have.
Is he as kind of what's the nice way of saying it? Like incompetent as he is in this? Like, is he good with the rocket pack and like actually doing stuff, or is he always kind of just
bumbling?
Yeah.
In the books I've read, he is good at being the Rocketeer, but so yeah, he's been the Rocketeer for a few years, and it's all still set in that like 1938 to 1943 kind of bubble. But yeah, I think I would compare him to, if you had Indiana Jones running around with the rocket pack for a couple of years, like he'd still probably goof some stuff up and that sort of thing. Yeah. But he's generally good at being the Rocketeer.
And at the end of the day, it's still just a rocket. I mean, this was my biggest issue, I think, with the whole thing, is I don't think having a rocket strapped to your back is such an advantage. Like, it's. We'll get to that later because there's one part where I really have issue with this concept.
It's probably the same one I have. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that. Like, so his superpower is to fly onto buildings and save planes that rarely are around. I guess it's handy if you're doing high-rise fire rescue, and that's about it. If you don't add more fire to that rescue. But yeah, it's a weird quote unquote power to have as a hero. Because how handy is it really? So yeah, I think it's a cool idea. Yeah, and they just went with it from there.
Sure,
because he does give me Indiana Jones vibes.
Of course,
he doesn't really plan stuff that well, and it just happens to work out in the end. I'll cut him some slack. He's had like 5 flights with the thing, and they're still in a biplane, so I'll cut him some slack for doing as well as he's done.
Yeah, it's something I didn't notice as a kid, and I think even Jennifer Connelly's Jenny says it at one point. She's talking about him wrecking his plane, like the day before or that morning or something like that, and so. Like towards the end of the movie, you realize this all takes place in the span of 2 days. So it's not like he's had any time to adjust to this, and so let's jump back towards I mean, we're kind of jumping all over a little bit, but that's okay. But when we see the rocket, they stash it in the plane, and when they find it and he straps it on, he just looks so damn heroic. Just strapping the thing on with no helmet yet, and just putting it on, it just looks so damn heroic.
Well, it's the buckle.
It's all of it, yeah. It's the leather, it's the jacket that he's wearing. The whole look is so beautiful.
It's surprising how non-flashy it is, like even from up front, but it still looks cool.
Yeah. I'm
glad I was just going to say, I still don't understand the pants, but... I always thought those pants were more for horseback riding and not so much for flying a plane, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, his aren't the like crazy.
They're not crazy, but they still have that weird bump like on the side.
Yeah.
And, like in my head, it was way worse before I saw the movie. I was picturing like jockey pants, like from the 30s. Yeah. Where you get that big old like bowed out look. But yeah, basically his pants weird me out. Is what I'm getting at. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I mean, aren't planes just the horses of the sky? So
planes, the horses of the sky. It sounds like a advertisement for the rocket back in the 30s. Planes, the horses of the sky.
Yeah. I'll get on to Howard Hughes. I'll let him know.
Yeah.
I do like that the rocket is it's like a wider twin engine rocket. In this, it looks, I think, better, especially because it's like as wide as his torso, almost. Whereas like the rocket in the comics, and I spoke about this when we did talk about the rocket a couple weeks ago. Like in the comics, the rocket was like one single rocket that just sat in the middle of his back, and it would have, I don't know. I think this works so much better. I'm really glad they changed the look of the rocket for the movie. So.
Do you reckon they tried it, like pre-production? They made a single one and just realized probably when you're looking at him like from front on, you can't really see it, and maybe it's quite obscure. It's not as visually obvious from every direction. Whereas with, as you're saying, this is as wide as him, so you can kind of see the outline of the rocket no matter which way you're looking at him.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a factor. I mean, I think the original would have been something like that vacuum that they, that they faked it out with. And I keep thinking of like the single rocket in the middle just makes me think of when they strap a rocket to Buzz Lightyear's back or in Toy Story. It's like, it's just a different shape and different, completely different visual,
So are you saying that if this movie had come out now, we would have a load of YouTube videos where they're saying, "Did you see the Easter egg of the vacuum cleaner in the truck was actually the original rocket from the comics, but they used that as a." Oh wow! So what a shame we're not living in those times.
Yeah,
I think the propaganda cartoon had the one rocket as well.
Yeah,
that they look at later. So maybe one rocket means Nazi, two rocket means America, because we're twice as good.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and because the Nazi propaganda stuff, like
hold
they
on,
had
hold
their
on
own...
a second. Sorry, I was going to say something, but so I mean, you feel that you are twice as good as Nazis.
Hey,
that
at the very least.
Okay. Let's say that's not a massively high bar you're setting.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of realized that after saying it. I'm like, but in general, we like to do things bigger and better. We're basically like Texas, which is that state's motto, is everything's bigger in Texas.
Yeah.
So I always assume that we got to do things bigger, not necessarily better, but definitely bigger.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just that Americans are bigger, so they needed 2 rockets.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah.
We do have some heft. Yeah. That makes sense. I like that.
Yeah. I want to talk about Timothy Dalton as Neville Sinclair. I think he might be my favorite thing in the movie because he is just so damn fun to watch, and just again playing it so perfectly. Like to me, the sequence with him filming the fight scene with on stage felt more like the Errol Flynn Robin Hood movie. Yeah. I think that's what they're going for.
Yeah, I definitely felt the same, especially with him dropping the, I was going to say chandelier, but you know what I mean, the lighting rig that was sort of up onto the group. And it is that, the banquet scene, basically, right? Straight out of that Robin Hood movie with Errol Flynn.
Seems to be, yeah.
Which is, I mean, that was great. And actually, Timothy Dalton, I think he is, he's often sort of referred to as one of those rare few that does film, TV, theatre, kind of all. He's your very kind of all-encompassing actor that he just...
Yeah.
So I think for him, like playing that kind of actor within the movie, it just led to him being able to kind of pick in and drop into these different sort of ways of acting he has. So he could be very sort of over-the-top actor while he's being an actor. But then when you see him later as a spy, he's, there's quite a shift in the way he speaks and acts. And I just thought he's so good in this. He's, weird to see Bond on the other side, but, we're...
And really, this would be probably the next thing you'd see him in. I mean, certainly the last time we talked about him, he was playing James Bond. So,
yeah, I guess what License to Kill was 89.
Yep. Yeah. I really like Timothy Dalton. There's a scene when when he first talks to Jenny. This is after he's realized that she's connected to Cliff, but to see him play it as if he is caught in like a love at first sight thing, like the character, it's so weird because it's like Timothy Dalton is playing Neville Sinclair, who is pretending to be taken by Jenny. Like all that's on the surface, and it's perfect. But then underneath that, that he is an actor. He's a spy. He's pretending to be caught off guard by Jenny, and it's just the layers there are really nice. That's one of the reasons I think Timothy Dalton has been my favorite actor in this movie, just because watching him is so fun. And he and Jenny get a lot of screen time together. I was really surprised towards the middle and the end of the movie that how much they're in it together. So I was really happy to see a lot of those two characters together.
That was probably my favorite sequence, was Jenny acting and taking advantage of his creepiness.
Yeah.
And sort of seducing him by pretending to be,
Oh, yeah. With
really into it and naive, and turning the tables on him with every woman's move in this movie, which is to hit you over the head with some random object.
Yeah.
Which I think is like the version of the 30s woman's go-to maneuver. I think the cook was, or not the cook, the waitress or whoever was in charge of the diner, I guess.
Yeah.
She did the cartoon version with the pan, and then Jenny continued it on with various objects.
Yeah, the vase.
Vase, the random statue thing that she clubbed him over the like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was the go-to move for every woman in this film. I think
Sure.
even the girl hit what's his face, the Rocketeer. On the head with something and hit the trap door at the dog head.
I think so. Yeah.
I just noticed that. I was like, okay, a lot of people are getting hit in the head here.
Well, and I noticed like some other, movie tropes like that when Neville is trying to kind of chase down Cliff in the behind the scenes of the movie set, and all of a sudden everyone's getting in his way. It's people, suddenly standing up to move over here and they bump into him, and it's almost that joke from Wayne's World 2 where it's like, oh, we're moving this pane of glass, over here, and over here we're loading, watermelons, and I'm carrying chicken crates, and it's almost that where everyone just gets in his way, but it works, I think because
that's just how the 30s were, I think.
Yeah, everyone's always moving stuff.
That's right. So we were kind of talking about Bond here a little bit, and we do have a Bond henchman. Kind of character here.
Lothar, yeah.
/ Dick Tracy face.
Yeah, he's definitely the most Dick Tracy aspect of this movie, I think.
I loved him.
I did too. I remember the sequence of him folding the guy in half in the hospital is something that stuck out to me when I was a kid watching this. Like, that kind of scared me.
I was going to say, oh, really? That stood out to you in this movie?
Oh, yeah.
How odd. Yeah. What was his name?
Lothar.
Lothar. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to write that down.
And he's credited as Tiny Ron.
That's what I was like. I was
Tiny
so confused
Ron,
when I saw that.
Yeah, I think he's Ron Taylor, I think is his real name. But yeah, Tiny Ron. He's been in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I think Alan Arkin's probably my favorite.
He's great. Movie. Yeah, he was really fun to watch.
He's really good at talking to himself in movies.
Yeah.
So you see it at the end especially, but he's just one of those guys where it's like he's got that aura about him, like he knows a lot of stuff, but he plays it like he's just a simple guy.
Mm-hmm.
But he's got a lot of things going on in his head, and sometimes it leaks out with inner monologue being outside. I don't know. There's just something about him. He's just a charming actor, I think.
Sure. We kind of touched on it earlier with the when Cliff is at the I don't know, the set behind the scenes, and he does knock over that wall. There's such a weird bit, the whole stabbing Charlie thing.
Yeah.
Because earlier we see the whole scene play out that they're filming. They're having a sword fight. Neville Sinclair kills this Charlie guy on the stairs, and then he would swing over onto the tabletop and have the moment with the fair maiden and all that, and have a little bit more fighting with some other knights or whoever. And then when the wall falls over, somehow he ends up being stabbed. But the way they play it, because these two actors have a little bit of rivalry maybe, and we know that they're setting up Neville to be a bad guy. It's maybe not obvious yet, but
wait, doesn't he has that line, doesn't he? He's like, oh, was I stealing the scene?
I know.
And you're like, oh, is he accusing him? Like, where?
Right. They play it as if Neville, I don't know, while the wall was on top of him, goes over and stabs Charlie just to kill him. I don't know what they're trying to make me think here.
I thought they were just joking, in an old way, sort of making light of a dire situation.
I think you could change it a little bit and make it where maybe Cliff is just wandering around and doesn't realize he is
stabbing
in the
people.
Scene.
Oh, okay.
Or no, just in the scene walking around, and then the director is like, "Hey, who is this guy in the middle of my scene?" And then they have to shut down and redo everything. Like, I think there's a different way to do it without stabbing Charlie and making it vague as if, like, how did he get stabbed? Who stabbed him? Was it,
I guess so. I was just like, oh, dude got stabbed. Bummer. Moving on.
Yeah.
Because if he just walked into the scene, it would almost seem like he was mentally not well, because you'd have to be a complete imbecile to not realize that somebody's filming with how loud it is in there.
Yeah.
And they have the score going on while this is going. So
yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
So I guess the only way you could have done it then is instead of having the scene where she reads the line very poorly and then they reshoot and say, oh, you need to act better to that girl that said that odd line about the drink and the lips and whatever. You could have had instead of the director giving a line about how they're setting up this big action piece and they've only got one shot at this because they've got to hoist something up into the rigging or whatever, and he ruins that shot, and then it's like, oh, we spent the whole day setting this up and it's for nothing. And that you're fired. And maybe it gives kind of the same impact without this random. I mean, we are talking far too much about this nobody character that got stabbed, but that's it. Maybe he's got a backstory. He's probably a Japanese spy. We don't know. But maybe
he's a double agent that's trying to expose Neville.
Yeah,
that'd be awesome.
Let's jump to I guess the next scene after this all takes place. It's the air show or the air race that's going on, and it's basically it's setting up the first flight of the Rocketeer.
I was surprised that they had air races like that. I only knew about that from like the Red Bull air races we have today. I didn't even know they did that way back then.
No, I think that was a big deal back then. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was just surprised based on the maybe reliability of planes maybe back then not being. I don't know. It was cool though. I loved it. The shots they did, but I was like, oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem odd though having like a clown plane, as you're saying. If it's it's quite dangerous anyway, and then be like, and we'll just throw up another plane to fly around to distract people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
if you halftime show.
Like he's supposed to pretend he's incompetent at flying or something, which I believe would be the reason for the clown plane. Otherwise, how do you be funny in a plane?
Probably a lot of stunt stuff like barrel rolls and flying up and cutting the engine out and getting it back flying again last second or something like that. It's probably a lot of Daredevil type stuff.
Yeah.
While wearing a clown costume.
Yeah, I don't get that. Nobody can see you, dude.
Yeah. It's a decent setup though, having the guy who we've seen as being slightly like he's kind of misses a step with trying to put the wheel back on the plane earlier, so they've shown that he's kind of he's not quite right, but
I know that dude from A League of Their Own. It's Marla Hooch's dad. He's got a unique look to him, so I was like, hey, it's that guy. I took him as a mechanic because I think, what did he say, he hasn't flown in like 25 years or something. And he like had battled the Red Baron or something. Back in the day. Whether or not that's true, who knows?
I would say, once we get him, the Rocketeer in action, and he's got the helmet, and again, just strapping on the rocket and putting on the helmet is again just so damn heroic. That look is so amazing. But then once we get the actual in action flight sequence, it kind of looks a bit rough.
What? They're trying, man. They're trying.
No, totally. They're definitely trying. It's just in these sequences, I think because I buy every other aspect of the movie, performances, the time period, the filming, just everything is working at top-notch performance. But then the sequences of him in flight and like wrestling with the plane and trying to get control of the plane and that stuff and flying around, that I had a hard time watching some of that stuff. Like
I thought him falling off the plane constantly was pretty good. Like,
the real stunts I think work great,
Yeah.
But it's just
like,
where they have
those
to
shots where he's like going through the orchard or whatever, where it's like, is that what you're talking about? Like,
No, I
where it's
mean like
obviously blue
when
screen,
when it's him against a blue screen, like interacting with the plane before they
oh,
have a
when he's like
chance.
on it. Okay, I gotcha.
Before they have a chance to replace the where they have like the matte lines around the character, you can tell that it's like you're putting one layer on top of another layer of film. Like that stuff doesn't hold up that well. In some places it works great, but
I think I'm more forgiving of that.
Yeah.
Because like the thing I find more distracting is what we do more so now, which is like, I think the best example I can give is probably Age of Ultron, Avengers movie, where in the beginning they're like swapping and moving and like going from character to character in like a smooth motion, like, but it looks fake to me. Like,
looks like a cartoon.
Yeah, like the way they're angling, and that's not possible, and they're like digitally enhancing the crap out of this thing. Like, I find that more distracting than this, because to me, this is what movies seem like, and maybe it's more of a nostalgia thing.
Right.
But I find this less distracting than I do crazy camera shots that shouldn't exist.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but
sure.
I guess when I see something that's obviously like a blue screen, I'm just like, oh, okay. I just go with it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's more distracting if you're a younger person that's used to the Avengers kind of special effects than our hokey.
Yeah. I'm wondering if the like chaotic nature of the way he flies also has an effect on it. Because if you think like Superman, it's quite a controlled. He's always very controlled when he's flying, whereas here he's kind of flailing and bumping into things and knocking off this onto that. So I imagine that with the technology you've got at your disposal, it's probably very difficult to kind of line things up as easily as you could maybe with Superman, where it's sort of a nice clean line,
static,
grabbing this thing, very controlled.
That's probably a big part of it. Yeah. So they didn't look like they existed in the same space for me at any point, really, except for when it's obviously a real stunt person on the wings of the plane, or like that stuff was all fine. But anytime they had to superimpose him interacting with something, it just didn't work too well for me. But
I think my favorite shot in that whole sequence is, and I thought it was done well, was the salute to the people on the plane.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Accidentally knocks the button and just plummets to the ground.
Yeah.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think I actually laughed when it happened. Well, like that, and later you learn that if you tilt your head, it steers you. So it steered it right into his hand and knocked the button. So I thought that was kind of cool. That was it Peavy or he says, if you move your head, you're going to move.
Yeah,
and he had no idea. And this is after he flew.
Yeah,
so.
that's when I was saying I hadn't seen this in more than 20 years. Certain things popped into my mind for some reason. That concept of the rudder on the head, on the helmet, is something that occasionally pops into my mind for no reason. I just that's probably the scene that stood out the most, or the one kind of most memorable thing from that movie was this idea of wherever you look, that's where you're going to go, kind of thing. But it's weird because that was an addition he made to it. So how did you steer it before?
I don't think they got that far, judging by Hughes' conversation. It didn't sound like it had gone so well.
Yeah,
He's had a couple pilots die or something, or injured or something like that. Because
but it seems like you've got not even. It's not like, well, we'll try this, and if it works, great. Oh, it didn't work quite as well. You have nothing. You've just put it out there. Let's do a test flight. How are we going to steer it?
Everyone's
not sure yet.
Everyone's so concerned with making the rocket work and not explode because it overheats, and that's everyone's concerned about how to make the thing fly. But PV's the first one to think of okay, once you're flying, you got to be able to steer and control it. So
yeah, it does seem kind of half baked.
Yeah,
when you realize that Howard Hughes and everyone hasn't thought of a steering mechanism.
Yeah.
Yeah, which we skipped the scene because we've kind of we jumped around a lot at the beginning, but like at the very beginning when they think that the rocket's been blown up, and there's this like really dramatic scene in his office where he's sort of saying he's not going to make another one, and he burns the papers, and he's like, "I'm sorry, guys, the dream is over," and I'm still like, "It's just a rocket." Like, it's not. The way he feels about it, and at this point, it's a rocket that, as we said, you can't steer, and the throttle didn't work on it properly, so it was just like full power or nothing. It's not the biggest loss, is it?
Yeah. And if nothing else, I'm sure those papers have some really good plans for alternative fuel sources or other ways that you could take this rocket and apply it to other aspects that aren't military based, other air travel or, just.
Yeah. Well, do they say it runs on alcohol?
Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. and I have another question about the rocket, if you'll indulge me.
Yes.
Because they make a point of him like touching the outside of the rocket and being like, "Oh, it's cold."
Yeah.
Like it's not. And I think there is a line later where he talks about how they look at this, they filtered off the something or another and reinforced this so that it cools immediately but preheats the fuel. So my question is, are the flames hot?
Yeah,
but your legs are safe somehow.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing you kind of have to. I think that's one of the bigger suspension of disbelief sort of things is that you'd be able to have this flame shooting out of your back, but not roasting your legs.
Yeah, that's the one thing. Because the other thing about the helmet is that there's that line when he says that they'll need a helmet because they do the test launch of the statue, and that statue's head is absolutely caved in. There's like, oh, we'll need a helmet. I'm not sure a helmet's enough, to be honest with you. That's
Oh, it's an insane premise. I mean, to think that this guy could just grab it and not immediately like crash it or blow up or something, and he just runs with it and goes. I mean, it's a pretty far-fetched idea, but you kind of just go with it.
Yeah.
Because then jumping back to like where we were, the air show. So after he does the rescue and then he gets like knocked off course and he goes through the field and the water and like crashes it, he'd be dead, right?
Oh sure.
Oh yeah.
Skipping across the water and
neck injury. Yeah.
Oh
easily.
Man. Yeah.
But it's a movie.
Yeah. A couple things you just have to go with, but for the most part,
it does seem like this thing's more of a hindrance than a help. For the most part.
Yeah.
It causes more destruction and mayhem than anything. Yeah. I mean, it basically is a fancy transportation device, and that's about it.
It is kind of a stretch to think like an army with a bunch of these is going to take over the world. I mean, I guess... I don't know.
I couldn't imagine flying over the ocean in one of those.
No.
Like they show.
No, but I think you'd launch them from... say a Zeppelin
like a ship or something.
The animation later of having it like the epicenter being Germany and then all the arrows going out, that's not literally like they'd launch from Germany and fly.
Sure.
But
okay, well I definitely want to talk about that scene later, but I've been holding off. I'm waiting until we get there because I have a lot of thoughts about that.
Yeah. I'm kind of like, there's a lot to talk about, but there's nothing really.
No, I guess from there you go to the to like them at the house tinkering with it again, and the big guy turning up.
Yeah, because really the second act is kind of. I mean, there's a lot there, but it's. I mean, I'm okay kind of jumping forward a little bit more. I mean, in the background you have Neville is after the rocket. He's hired the mob to find the rocket, and the mob doesn't know that they're working for a secret Nazi spy. And
so the goon guy is a fellow spy.
Goon guy, Lothar works for Neville Sinclair. Like he's his henchman, basically. He's kind of ready for hire or always at your disposal type guy.
Because he calls him in like he's like a hitman.
Yeah.
At the beginning, like had the sense that this is the guy you call when you need something done that can't be done.
Yeah, because he's a
then
spy.
He just turns into a hitman, or a henchman.
Yeah. He's a spy, and he needs someone there if things, if he's maybe about to get his cover blown. Like, he needs someone that he can dispose of people that are on his trail, I guess.
Gotcha. So at the Cabana Club or whatever it's called.
Yeah. South Seas.
Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed that whatchamacallit, blanking on his name, Neville, had just a random chloroform rag in his pocket for such an occasion. Like, that's his go-to date move.
Oh, yeah.
When there's a line... it seemed.
Yeah. When she even calls him out for maybe it not being the first time that he's drugged someone.
Well, clearly not on the basis of the room setup.
Yeah, and he's got smelling salts like ready to wake her up.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
A change of clothes.
Yeah,
a changing room. Yeah.
So the Rocketeer is terrible at stealth. Like,
very Indiana Jones.
Well, and I noticed, like, obviously he gets to the South Seas Club and he's got to deal with hiding the rocket.
Yeah, and I laughed a lot at that.
Oh yeah. And
because that sorry, I was just saying that is, the Spider-Man issue that he wears his costume under his clothes. He's always got to hide his clothes somewhere.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're a superhero. You come in, you get there really fast because you've got a rocket, and then you spend 20 minutes trying to find somewhere to hide your rocket. It's like somebody with a foldable bike.
It's funny because we just recently talked about the 90s Captain America movie, and through a lot of the second act, he's just in street clothes and he's carrying a giant tote bag because of his shield and, his costume and everything. So for a big chunk of the movie, you've got this big guy running around with a big bag, on his shoulder, and it just looks really unfortunate that you can't have, your costume on under your clothes like a Superman or a Spider-Man. And so that was kind of the same thing here, where, okay, I've got this rocket, I've got to hide that, and then I've got this helmet, I got to hide that too, So he's not one of those characters that can easily infiltrate and change his identity, or put on a costume and to hide himself or whatever. So they kind of have to deal with that. What's that?
You just got some imagination. Throw an overcoat on, pretend you have a hunchback.
Yeah.
I mean, right there.
That would be funny to see him like throw on a big trench coat.
It's like, yes, master. Although the helmet could prove to be an issue.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a bulky getup, so he's kind of SOL.
Yeah.
Oh, and we miss. So, just going back to the hitting people over the head move, like that as well, because I keep forgetting his name. What did he say was the massive guy?
Lothar.
I was going to say Lothar, and I was like, that doesn't sound right.
That's right.
So Lothar, who appears to be kind of indestructible, like. We see him get kicked in places that would drop a man. He's fine.
Yeah.
Yet when this woman just almost delicately hits a thing over his head that shatters on impact, he is down.
I think it even shatters before it makes contact.
Before.
I think because she squeezed it too hard. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Because he's basically Jaws from the Bond universe, who is pretty much the same as indestructible He-Man giant guy. So it makes zero sense. It's just, I don't know. It's of its era, I guess.
Yeah.
The 30s, I should say.
Another scene at that club that they went to, or that restaurant or wherever it was, that weird musicless dance.
Mm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was just odd.
Yeah. Especially
when...
his line
and
of
then
like,
after there is music.
Yeah. But his line of like, oh, you don't hear the music, he's playing up that cheesy, this is how I'll get the girl, and again, it's like he's putting on a performance for all of this, and it's really impressive.
Well, To be fair, Timothy Dalton in general gives me just the heebie-jeebies. Even when he was Bond, there's something about him just creeps me out. I can't figure out what it is. I don't know if it's his smile and the way, like, I always feel like he's gonna like poison me. I don't know what it is, because it plays perfectly even in like Hot Fuzz later on as the supermarket manager or owner. Like he plays that character. Yeah, to me that is him.
Well, to be fair, there's a good chance that Bond would try to poison you. So that's
that too. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There's just something about him I don't trust.
Timothy Dalton, if you picture an early animated Disney cartoon villain wolf.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, that is what Timothy Dalton looks like to me. He looks like a sinister cartoon wolf, you know? I don't know if that makes sense. I think it's just the way his eyes...
He looks predatory.
Yes. Yeah. I think that's it. Like, he just has that...
I don't mean to sound as bad as it does, but I don't mean to call him a predatory person, but he's got that look like he could just snap at any moment, possibly.
Well, and that look that makes a scene like him drugging a girl and waking her up in her bed, like, that doesn't seem like that was a stretch, you know? And I'm not insinuating that Timothy Dalton, the real person, has ever done that, but...
But you're not saying he's definitely never done that.
Exactly. I'm sure he's a great guy.
The views and comments of today's show are not necessarily those of the network in general.
Coming soon from Geppetto Studios. Mike Watson, Jarf, and Alice Lauren provide commentary for Avengers Endgame.
Please, Kevin Hart wishes he was on this podcast.
Listen while you watch. It'll remind you what it's like to have friends. Sully from Locked on MLB talks baseball movies.
9 women can't make a baby in a month.
Author Tim Burdick talks the movies of James Gunn.
I'm already doing Skype lessons with my privates.
Cracked.com's Isaac K talks Tiger King.
Find somebody who's got tigers or lions or something, and then we can go from there.
Actress Carrie Flanagan talks about what every young performer should know.
Do you remember everything you said?
And Brad talks.
He got me pregnant.
And talks.
Nailing your wife.
And talks.
My pants are starting to feel a little tighter. It's like, this ain't great.
You know how he is. The Cosmic Geppetto Podcast. They were socially distant before it was a government mandate.
Do you guys want to talk about the Fleischer Superman inspired Nazi propaganda cartoon?
Yes, absolutely. I want to talk about this because it's part 2 of 2 little videos that you get shown, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, well, look, the Nazis were building these rockets, and you see a kind of not really functioning rocket, right? So they're like, oh, they couldn't quite get it working. But then we saw this, and you're like, oh no, what did you see? Because you've gone from them having an idea that doesn't work to, then we saw the next thing they released that not even released. We stole this video.
Yeah, many Bothans
and we were able to see it.
To get that footage.
And it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
It's a cartoon just going, oh, imagine we have these, and then we just take over the world. And there's no how we take over the world or how this would actually work or what strategic advantage it would give us in any way. And everyone is absolutely on board that this would work. They're like, oh, they're right. Look, the cartoon can't be wrong. We see the arrow is conquering us. We're done. I just couldn't understand how everybody was just like, well, that's never going to work, is it? You know, it's like it would be like if you saw someone trying to build like a Gundam, like a big robot type thing, and they're like, yeah, in Japan they're trying to build that, and then you watch an anime and they're like, oh my goodness, they are going to conquer the world now. And you're like, well, no, because they can't build it, can they? It doesn't work. Like, it's a great concept, but actually, in reality, it's flawed. It's that.
Oh, yeah, could you imagine even a biplane in a dogfight with a person flying a backpack? Like, just guns shooting? Like, there's like zero protection as a flying rocket guy.
Yeah, but I think if you had one of these,
They have like a pistol? What?
Well, or think of like if you're loaded up with grenades, you fly onto a plane, you throw a grenade down into the cockpit. I mean, that would work with biplanes. It wouldn't necessarily work with planes that have a closed cockpit, but you could easily fly to a plane, somehow disable the
Easily, huh?
Easily. I mean,
I think earlier has proven not so easy.
Well,
even trained doing that would be insane. Because during a dogfight, the plane's moving and like it's not staying level like it was in the movie.
Yeah,
it's gonna be moving around, pitching, turning. Like,
and you can only move your eyes. You can't move your head. Because if you move your head,
just saying, the cartoon is really selling this more than it should. As far as the first part of that video sequence where the failures are being displayed, in my head watching it, because everyone's like running around, I kept hearing yakety sax, like like it just seemed like a funny short to me. Like, I don't know, it had a weird look to it that just didn't seem right. But yeah, I'm on board with the cartoon being a hell of a pitchman.
Yeah.
Whoever made that did a great job, because I bought into it for a second.
Sure.
I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Wait, no, that's not going to work. All right, so we were just talking about Nazi propaganda.
Yeah.
Cartoon.
Which is kind of a great way to start the third act. Because at that point, once, he gets suited up again and he goes to meet them for the swap, I guess, this just becomes an Indiana Jones with a rocket pack movie, and I'm okay with that.
Well, I do find it interesting because just before he goes to do the swap, they tell him, look, you've got to give it back, right? Mm-hmm. It's not yours. You've got to give it back. And he's like, I'll give it back to you tomorrow.
Yeah.
What was your plan? Like, you're kind of getting annoyed that they're not accepting that. But I'll give it back to you tomorrow after I've gone and maybe swapped it for my girlfriend, but we're not sure. Or I've been killed and they've taken it. But I'll give it back to you tomorrow. So why are you being so hard? Why is this a problem for you? I've said I'll give it back tomorrow. Don't you believe me? And it's like, well, it's not that we don't believe you. We doubt your capability.
Yeah. How are you going to achieve both objectives of getting the girl and keeping the rocket?
But I do like something happens at the swap. Now, this is just a personal thing that I have observed in my life. And I'm not sure I'd ever really seen it on film to this degree. Go with me on this, because it's going to sound weird. But it's I feel like some people are, I guess, how would you describe it? Like nationally fluid, I suppose.
Oh, okay.
So, like when I was living in Italy, for example, I quite often know people that were maybe half Italian, half American, or half Italian, half something else. And you had this amazing... Actually, I had one friend, the perfect example, because she was, like, on her mum's side, I think, her mum was half Spanish, half American, and then her father was Italian. And she could just play the card of whichever nationality she wanted to be at any time. So you'd be in a situation, and it was like, oh, of course I'm a great dancer. I'm Spanish.
Yeah.
I'm like, are you Spanish? Because I thought you were. And then, it comes to...
of course I'm a good cook. I'm Italian.
Yeah, or discussions about language. So I was teaching English, and I'm American, so actually... I'm like, well, are you American? Because apparently you're Spanish-Italian. So theoretically, my English would be better.
Yeah.
So the gangster... Oh, what was his name?
Eddie Valentine?
Eddie, yeah.
Yeah. So when they find out that he's a Nazi...
Yeah.
He uses a line like, "Oh, it does." It's like, "I'm paying you. Why does it matter?" And he's like, "You're a." I can't think what he even says to him. He's like, "Oh, you're a gangster, or you're a bad guy," something like that. And he's like, "Yeah, but I'm 100% American."
Yeah.
Oh, so not Italian at all? Because I'm pretty sure the rest of the time you're telling people you're Italian.
Yeah.
So
That's awesome.
That really stood out to me, probably more than to anybody else watching this movie. That was just like, really?
That's awesome.
Interesting.
See, and that makes sense because, like, if in America, everyone's like, they always say, like you're saying, oh, well, I'm half Italian, half French, half this, half that, that, and the other. I think the best example here is St. Patrick's Day, where everyone's Irish all of a sudden.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's more prevalent here. I don't hear too many people even here say, "Yep, I'm American." Like it's always I'm Italian or Swedish or I don't know. Just nobody identifies their family as American. Everyone goes back generations.
Yeah.
Instead, I don't know when that tipping point is where everyone just says, "Oh yeah, we're American," but we use it as convenience dictates.
Yeah, yeah.
Once the Olympics roll around, we're American.
Right. Yeah. Or this will get me out of like explaining my actions. Oh, I'm Irish. Yeah, that's why I'm just drunk or.
Oh wow. Wow, that got off course.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Much like his flying, we have gone off course.
Oh yes.
So a Zeppelin appears.
Yes.
Just they do tease it earlier on very nicely when Cliff takes Jenny to the movies and they have the newsreel of like this Zeppelin is going to be going across the country and arriving in LA in a couple weeks or something, a couple days, I guess.
Okay. You're right. I'm sorry. I apologize. I am happy to accept the concept that there was a Zeppelin flying around. I struggle with the idea that a massive group of people can be standing around and nobody sees a massive Zeppelin until it appears from behind a building that theoretically is on the ground.
Well, I think...
Is the ocean back there?
Right.
It's on a cliffside?
I think because they're at Griffith's Griffith's Observatory, which is positioned, I believe, on top of a hill, and they're standing close enough to the building that it would obscure something coming up kind of behind and lower. So it's kind of rising over the building. I don't know.
But it still had to get down there in the first place. You have to like do a dive that quickly. Oh, they're all looking the other way now. Go, go, go.
It's nighttime. They do say it's like 4 a.m. So it's pitch black out there.
All right. Okay. You win.
And was it filled with Nazis?
And
that's how that small army showed up?
Yeah, because then they had even like the big Nazi swastika on the side, didn't
they? Yeah.
I tell you one thing, Nazis, they knew how to brand.
Yeah.
Even when she finds his little secret spy book, it's definitely got a swastika. It's like, just in case you forget which book you need, this is the one.
Yeah.
I mean, fair enough. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I was half expecting him to rip off the mustache and have a tiny little mustache. Like how over the head we were beaten with the fact that he's a Nazi spy.
Yeah. I do like once they're in the Zeppelin and it's all coming down to the end, his German accent starts to come through. So I like that because it's like goes to the fact that he's been acting and putting on the performance of Neville Sinclair and all that, but now he's starting to loosen that up a little bit. So,
and the guy that's in there with him yelling at him is like a quintessential Nazi random guy.
Yeah,
like just that angry.
He definitely looked like an extra from Indiana Jones.
Yes.
Like that.
Yeah, Tote.
That was
kind of looks like Tote.
Yeah, there was some quite almost comical moments in that kind of big final fight on the Zeppelin. A few of my favorites were the kind of it's too heavy, so he shoots a guy and he falls out.
Yeah,
but that is only superseded by I think there's a line when he's like, "Don't worry." It's like, "Oh, we have the best." Yeah. I'm sure I wrote it down. I can't find it now. But it's like it's the best. Don't worry, we've got the best pilot in Germany or something like that.
Yeah.
Who then somebody swings through a window.
Yeah, Lothar.
And knocks him out the other window.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, chef's kiss. Beautiful.
I was just going to say that. Yes. It was magnificent. And I was going to do the chef's kiss. That is perfect.
It's a good 1-2 punch.
Perfect. Yeah. Yes.
I thought that the fight between Cliff and Lothar, kind of on top of the Zeppelin, felt very brief, almost surprisingly brief. But then I like that they kind of save him for later, as the final obstacle after, once the Zeppelin starts blowing up and all that. But I really like the fight between Neville and Cliff inside the control room of the Zeppelin.
Yeah,
it's nice, just nice villainy by Neville, like, getting the rocket and talking to Jenny and saying like, it's not personal, it was acting or something like that. So
oh yeah, she said something about how he's always everything you've ever said is a lie, and he's like, it wasn't lies, it was acting.
Yeah,
there's a lot of I think the him being an actor thing got used really well, actually.
Yeah,
like, as much as we've mocked other parts of this, his character being an actor came, like, there were little lines that he would say earlier on that would then come back. So I think when we talked about that wall falling down, people may have missed that. I think we were quite brief on it, but we spoke momentarily on a wall falling down on it. And I think, when he hides like under a bench when it falls, and then when he climbs out, he says something about, well, let no one ever say that Neville doesn't do his own stunts.
Yeah.
And then
or bring down the
end,
house or something. Yeah.
When they have the fight, he's like, oh, how are you going to do it without a stuntman or something like that?
Yeah.
And he like tries to hit him, and he grabs him, and he's like, oh, I do my own stunts. So he's sort of like linking back these concepts throughout.
Yeah.
I just thought it's quite nice. It's sort of throwaway line here or there that then there is. I mean, it's not a payoff in the same way of a huge plot device.
Sure.
But it's nice that there's this degree of consistency to such a stupid thing, really.
Because he's definitely an actor first, who, like, he was probably even an actor in Germany, and they, it makes sense to use someone who is used to acting to be your spy. But he's not a spy first and then an actor. He's not a spy playing an actor. He's an actor as a spy. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He probably just thinks he's filming something right now.
Yeah.
It's just, why are you guys overacting? It's just a movie. Relax.
I'm sure he just treats it like a performance. Like, this is my grand performance. I'll trick everybody, into believing that I'm Neville Sinclair.
So yeah, I like the thought that he has a mental disorder where he thinks none of this is real.
Yeah.
And it's all just a big movie.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
But we do get to see the true hero of this movie, and that's bubblegum. Or chewing gum.
Yeah. It's a nice payoff.
Nudges it out of the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. This habit he has of sticking gum everywhere is it's weird and slightly frustrating. And what I find interesting as well is that clearly chewing gum works differently in this universe, because it can go from being solid and hard, you can't remove it, it's going to like really fight to kind of get it off, to the point where you could probably plug a hole in a rocket pack with it, to then it being so soft and malleable that just with a thumb you can gently just slide it off, and it will be fine. And I have some other thoughts about this chewing gum thing. I'll bring it back later, though.
Yeah, he treats it like he's going to come back for it later and keep chewing it. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It weirds me out that this dude sticks it somewhere and then goes back to chewing it.
Oh, like on the
flight,
on the back of the plane. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he does it like on the back of the plane, and it's kind of like this thing he does for luck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But doesn't he do it on like somebody's door later? Yeah. Doesn't he do it when he goes to pick her up?
Yes.
And he just sticks it on the door. Like, that's just bad manners. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's weird. I don't get it. I got no defense for it.
Yeah, yeah.
So we get the answer: are those flames hot?
Yeah.
As Neville turns into a flaming ball of acting.
Yeah.
Plummets to the ground in a tragic accident.
Well, we finally found out how the Hollywoodland sign
that's true.
got turned into Hollywood. So that's a question we needed answered.
Yeah.
After that, when it's them on top and they're trying to run, to safety, that feels a little much. Like,
yeah,
I don't know if I buy that you could walk, and run on top of a Zeppelin that's in the process of blowing up. I mean, maybe, I guess it still has a rigid, structure, frame and all that, I guess, but I don't know. I feel like they're shown to have too much time on top of that thing. Like,
that, and like it's almost like they were like, oh crap, how do we get them out of this?
Yeah.
Then they randomly fly in with a plane.
Right.
Somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Because you need them on top, because you couldn't have Hughes fly in with something if they were still down in the control room. It's like there's no way to, so you need them on top, but it's kind of like, well, I guess we'll do it this way. It's like, it's fine, but.
Yeah, I assumed they were going to grab a parachute.
Yeah, like that would have
jump
been
out or
fine
something.
too, yeah.
But maybe they're not high enough because it's just a blimp. I don't know.
Right, yeah. Either way.
It definitely felt like they were stuck, and the rider was like, well, they fly in and they're on top of this exploded balloon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was the worst. Sort of the scene that you were saying, like with him flying with the rocket, that it kind of pulled you out when you sort of saw all the lines around it and how it didn't quite work.
Oh yeah.
To me, it was them grabbing the ladder.
Yeah.
Because they're running to what is clearly a solid stationary ladder.
Yeah.
And then we are to believe that is a plane flying towards them with a kind of rope ladder just hanging.
Yeah, like dragging behind.
Yeah. Not great.
Yeah. So yeah.
And then it kind of all wraps up very nicely at the end.
That was my note too. A nice wrap up, and it's I think Iron Man kind of stole from this, where at the end of Iron Man you have Agent Coulson telling Stark like about how they're going to sweep the news like under the rug of what happened to Jeff Bridges' character. It's like, oh, he died in a plane crash, because small aircraft are known to be unsafe and that sort of thing. So there's the explanation for the death of the villain and that sort of thing that I think is a nice, maybe intentional borrowing from this movie, maybe.
Yeah, and he gets his plane.
Yeah.
The end.
I love the hint of more to come when Jenny gives Peavy the blueprints to, and it's not like he says, "Oh, we'll never do that again." It's instantly he goes into, well, if I make some adjustments here, I think we can really get a lot more performance out of this and that. And so I like that the gears are turning in his head instantly, that he's planning to build another one, and we'll see the Rocketeer again.
So we may still get a sequel. Who knows? That's
there.
I tell you what, I'd rather have a sequel than a reboot.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him finding a rocket again. I want to see. I want someone to sell me on the concept of having a rocket being a good thing. Like I need to be convinced that just not. It's like. I feel occasionally you get it in comic books, don't you, that somebody's power is flight.
Yeah.
And even then, I'm a bit like, there's not a lot you can do with just flight. I mean, depending on how strong you are, if you can even carry things when you're flying,
right,
and how much you can carry. Superman, if you took everything else away and just left him flight, he'd be pretty useless. It'd be good for a few things. But so I just want to see what you can do with that rocket. Like, when you're trained, when you know what you're doing, and maybe I'll be convinced. Maybe I'll go and buy one. I'll be that convinced. But I don't know. I have my doubts.
All right, heroic, villainous.
Yeah, I think we'll jump into that.
This planet, these people, they are nothing to me. You were made to be ruled. The universe is power. You unstoppable power! Come to me, son of Jor-El! Kneel before Zod! And I am that force! I am that power! In the end, you will always kneel. Kneel before your master!
Oh, most villainous. Okay, right. Well, I've got a few ideas. I think potentially someone we didn't even mention, but I think his name was Lenny, the guy at the very beginning who was he was one of the mobsters, and he was in the like the trunk of the car,
yeah,
firing his his Tommy gun by the looks of things, and he shoots down the plane at the start.
Yeah.
Why? Why does he shoot the plane?
Panic.
Yeah, just maybe to create a diversion or some type of scenario where that becomes the problem to deal with so they can get away. I don't know.
And honestly, that's on Peavy for taking the gum off the plane.
Right.
For good luck. Yeah. So,
so he's the villain.
Fault. Yes.
All right. And another one, and I can't believe we haven't mentioned these people at all. The FBI agent.
Oh God. Yeah.
The one FBI agent was just the worst through the whole. Every time he spoke,
the one that
was just
kept getting punched by Cliff.
Yeah. And punching back. So
yeah.
He was kind of a villain. They're like, you've come in here, you've destroyed our, everything we've got, and he's like, well, maybe it's time you got a real job.
Yeah.
What? That was just So, but I definitely think was it Lothar?
Yeah,
is probably the most villainous because what's interesting is like the guy in the hospital that he folds in half. He gave him the information, and then he folds him in half.
Sure. Yeah.
And the other guy who ran the
airfield guy.
The airfield thing.
Bigelow,
he also he gave him the information,
right?
And then he killed it. Like
I love the way those FBI agents. You see his face, and then you see his foot next to his head, and they're like, they folded him in half. I think I gotta go with Neville, like with Jenny waking up in the bed and Neville coming in. It just drips with that sinister, like villainy, predatory, like we were talking about, like just that notion that this is kind of his normal thing of like bringing these young actresses back to his place. And it probably didn't start off with him chloroforming them with a rag, but I'm definitely getting the vibe, like I said, that he's used this scenario a few times. And then
I thought you were going to say it probably didn't start that way, but he's used it now and he's realized this is a lot more convenient. And so that's why he had to be stopped.
Let's see. I'm going to probably go with, let's see, what's left?
I mean, there's Nazis in this movie.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Valentine's thugs in the diner.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I mean, he ruined those pies.
Yeah, he did.
Crying out loud. And the coffee.
Mm-hmm.
But I just got that feeling like, I don't know, just the whole vibe in the place was just like,
uncomfortable.
I don't know how to explain it, but I felt like everyone in there was legit in trouble. They played it perfectly.
That's a great mention because that scene is it almost goes on too long.
Yeah, and they get Jenny's number and Lady Luck, I think they call her.
Yeah,
but you just see them connecting the dots, and I don't know, it was just a good moment.
Yeah,
for me.
No, that's a good call.
So someone that I would put if it was set in this period of time as most villainous is Cliff. Because his habit of leaving gum around, when we're at the moment having a pandemic and we're socially distancing ourselves and we're told not to touch things and wash your hands, and this guy's taking stuff out of his mouth and just sticking it wherever it happens to be convenient for him.
Well, Peavy reaches into his mouth to get the gum at one point.
Oh, forgot about
he's
that.
like rooting around in there. Yeah. So how about most heroic?
I believe there's a hero in all of us.
I just finally know what I have to do.
That keeps us honest.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
Gives us strength.
You will give the people of Earth an ideal to strive towards.
Makes us noble.
And I know in my heart that it's right.
I mean, to me, it's first time he flies because he's basically jumping into this thing that we just saw caved in a statue's head.
Sure.
To save his friend that was trying to save his job. So I don't know. That seemed like the heroic entrance, at least.
That's a good one, yeah. Especially not knowing how to really control this thing, or it is the first time
It's
putting
stupid,
it on. Yeah,
but heroic,
yeah.
Stupidly heroic. I'll give it that.
Yeah, that's good.
It's a slight twist on being heroic, but I actually think Howard Hughes was one of the most heroic. I actually think he is Tony Stark with morals.
That's pretty much exactly how the character was created in the comics.
Yeah, so, because like at the beginning, I mean, he's built this thing. This is his. I don't know if it's his life's work, but surely it's it's up there as one of the greatest things he's going to invent.
Yeah.
And as soon as he realizes people are trying to use it, whether it be the Nazis or even the Americans, as a weapon, he's like, you know what? Burning it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Not going to do it for them. Not going to do it for you. We don't need another weapon. Whereas Tony Stark would have been like, you know what? I'll build the rocket for myself. And I'll make sure that I'm the only one who can use it because you can trust me. So I thought that was quite a heroic move. And then, he comes in at the end, gives him a plane. He saves him as well.
Yeah.
Saves them all. So I just think he wasn't in a lot of scenes, but he when he shows up, he always seemed
he's
on the level.
Hero.
Yeah.
He's the competent hero, yes.
I like that.
Makes sense.
I got a huge charge out of when all the action starts happening at the observatory, and Cliff makes off with the rocket, and he runs upstairs. He straps on the rocket. He's in front of the American flag, and he's got that gun, that pose. That's like lifted straight out of the comics. One of the covers. It's just such a heroic look, and then to fly off and save the day and all that. So got a real big charge out of that.
Does he burn the hell out of the American flag by doing that?
No, I mean...
It looked that way in the shot.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well, that doesn't look great. But yeah, I mean, that is a poster shot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's basically... I kept waiting for somebody to say, hold it, still, got it, good to go, buddy. All right.
Yeah. I want to share some thoughts we had from listeners that weighed in over on Instagram. Movies as Comics says, The Rocketeer is a masterpiece. I loved it when I was young and got to see it in theater with my pack of Rocketeer trading cards and the movie storybook in tow. I had the VHS and wore it out. Jennifer Connelly was one of my first crushes with this and Labyrinth. It says, I've watched this several times recently and feel it only appreciates with time and age. It's something I feel really comfortable watching with my kids. The fact that Billy Campbell didn't become a superstar and they didn't make umpteen sequels to this is beyond me. I have my theories as to why, and it's not the Rocketeer's fault. So yeah, that's Movies as Comics on Instagram. We also have from Phil Better of the Phil Better Show. The Rocketeer is one of my favorite movies as a kid, and was the first movie I watched on Disney Plus because I had such fond memories of it. For me, it stood the test of time. It's just so good. I love this movie. Then we also have from Brian Lockhart. I love this movie. I was 13 or 14 when this came out. The Rocketeer's look was so cool, and who wouldn't want a jetpack? I was in...
sorry.
I was in love with Jennifer Connelly. 3 scenes stand out to me. The Nazi cartoon reel, which reminded me of the old Fleischer Superman cartoons. The whole thing with the mob teaming up with the feds to stop the Nazi. The Go Get 'em kid line, I think from Eddie Valentine.
Yeah.
And Rick Overton saying, "It's the Rocketeer." My buddy and I said that often because we love Rick Overton. Classic movie. Now if I can only get my kid to watch it.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. It's funny because I responded to that in the Facebook group, and I was like, I didn't even realize Rick Overton was in the movie. He's just in the South Seas Club as one of the patrons. I guess he has the line, saying it's the Rocketeer. And I even said I'll have to keep my eye out for him. Completely forgot by the time I was watching the movie. And then I was like, oh yeah, I was supposed to keep an eye out for Rick Overton, but oh well. So
now I'm going to feel bad.
Why?
Because we'll get into it at the ratings.
Okay. So yeah, we'll
Wow, foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Then let's go around and say kind of overall thoughts and final thoughts on the Rocketeer and give it a rating. I can go first if you want.
Sure.
I mean, like I've said numerous times, I think they nailed the performances. I even think the look and the feel of the movie is just pitch perfect with that time period, and I think it's interesting that I don't think you could make this movie today. I think you'd nail the visuals, the effects and the special effects and that sort of thing. But I don't think you could get the look and feel of everything else. I do think there's something a little special about this being made in the 90s. I'm not sure. I'll have to think about that. But even like you said, Patrick, it feels like a movie like Forever Young or some of those movies that were period pieces in the 90s. I think there's just some weird chemistry there that works that I don't think you could necessarily get today. And in terms of heroism, some of the scenes fall a little flat because a lot of those action scenes are heroic, but then they're undercut with the bumbling, figuring it out sort of aspect of him not knowing what to do. And I completely understand that it's his first time out with this thing, so he's not as competent with it and stuff. But I think that maybe that's why a movie like Iron Man, by the end of the movie, he's nailed how to be Iron Man. We do have some scenes,
like a montage.
Yeah, like a montage of figuring it out. Maybe what I'm missing here, but there's also something to that. He's going to try to be a hero no matter what. Overall, like I said, everything in the movie just felt right, except for some of the special effects for me, the visuals and that sort of stuff. So I give it a 4 out of 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's... Is that higher or lower than you're going?
That's higher.
Oh, that surprises me. See, I agree with a lot of what you're saying, Travis, about the... I think it is well made, and especially for the time. And I think, like we were saying, the actors that they got across the board, excellent. I think everybody did a really good job for what they had to do. I guess my issue is I really don't like the concept of a bumbling hero. I always find it kind of annoying, especially if it kind of goes back to all superhero movies that we kind of constantly were getting origin after origin after origin.
Yeah.
And you're like, I just want to see you when you know how to use your powers, when you have confidence in what you're doing, and then we get to see something special instead of having 2 hours of, hey guys, if we make another one, it's going to be really good because, you wait and see what he can do. And I feel like it's true that he was figuring it out, but I mean, that's on you as a writer to write the movie that he gets it out. It could have been, I'm someone who would prefer just to see a movie of here's a day in the life of this person, and maybe a little explanation at the beginning of how he became this person, but now he's a guy with a rocket pack, because I still don't really get why you'd want one. I feel like that's where it. I mean, don't get me wrong. You want to give me a rocket pack, I'll take it. But
yeah, if you're just handing them out, yeah.
But it's like a lot of the time, what I was thinking is this is a really bad Green Lantern movie because it's basically the same thing. He gets a power, a device. He's a pilot. There's somebody's crashed. He gets a thing, and you're like, it's a Green Lantern rig. You can do all of these amazing things.
Yeah.
How disappointed you'd be if you just got a rocket pack. Like, you can fly, kind of. And that's sort of what annoyed me about it. But I did like it. I mean, I like the movie and I like everything. I just wish he was better at flying around. And I think, I'm going to go like middle of the road. I'm going to say probably 3 out of 5. Because I think all of the scenes that don't involve a rocket are great.
Yeah.
I mean, well, I say great. Some surprised me. The FBI like shooting up a house was a bit odd.
Yeah.
just to get someone they think is inside. There were some extremes, but I just found, I just would have liked to have seen maybe the first flight or the first two were a little bit rocky, but then look, and actually use. I think towards the end he falls off the Zeppelin, doesn't he? Like flies back around and kind of flies into him, and I was like, that's good. There we see a clever use of the rocket, but that was it. And it's just like you're giving him this device, and we never really get to see it used. So I found that a little bit, and that's probably what I didn't remember about this movie.
Yeah,
I didn't remember him being so bad with it. Probably because I was young.
Sure,
I didn't know how to fly a rocket, so I had no idea. Yeah. But now, in my older age and all my experience of flying rockets, I'm sure that he could have done better. But so I'm going to say a nice 3 out of 5, and 2 are removed for bad rocket skills.
Right on. It's interesting because you go 20 years later, and Joe Johnston makes Captain America, the first Avenger, and that movie, it almost is exactly what you were describing, what you want. Maybe a little tiny bit of origin, and then the rest of the movie, he competently uses his powers, which I would say is Captain America. I mean, he's never shown to be, like, maybe in that very first sequence when he gets his powers and he's chasing down the saboteur, like, he kind of runs through a couple glass windows and, does some fumbling that way, but the rest of the movie, he is 100%, a hero. And so it's just interesting that the same guy made those 2 movies, and one throughout the movie, he's kind of not sure of himself, and then the other, he's totally in charge. And both movies have obviously similar DNA and take place in and around the same time period. So it's just really interesting.
Perhaps somebody had this conversation with him.
Could be.
Just said,
yeah.
I like that movie you made. You know what would have been better if we'd seen him use a rocket in a better way? Okay. And that just sat with him for years. And then he got an opportunity to redeem himself. Now, I'm feeling quite bad. I'm sure Phil is going to have something to say about my bad rating for the movie that it was the first one he watched on Disney+. But I have a feeling I'm not going to get most hatred on this. So
take it away, Patrick.
All right. No, actually, I'm in the same ballpark rating-wise with the 3. It's a nothing movie. Like, it's a good background movie. Like, if you're folding clothes or something, maybe, or cleaning around the house, like, you'll check out a specific part of the movie, but the story's kind of boring. The whole plot is kind of lazy. It's like, oh no, stop the Nazis, damsel in distress.
Yeah.
Credits.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not intriguing. It doesn't keep my attention. I just kept going, just put the backpack on already.
There was a time, when I was watching it and you realize that we haven't seen Cliff in like 10 minutes. And it's basically the scene between Neville and Jenny kind of throughout when he takes her, drugs her, and then she has like nice hero moments there, taking care of herself. But then it's like, I kind of thought, I'm really enjoying these Neville-Jenny scenes, but I'm supposed to be watching Rocketeer. So, I
don't know. It's just not a engaging movie to me. Like, I found it to be kind of like cookie cutter.
Okay.
And that might be the Disney side of it. But, I think it was the whole damsel in distress and boring Nazi plot, like secret spy thing. Like, I think it's been overdone so much, and then this didn't really add anything to it.
Okay.
Other than a rocket pack. So, I'd put it as a 3. I mean, it's visually fun to look at.
Yeah.
It's got great acting. I just feel like it could have been a lot better.
Right on. I
mean,
mean, I think...
I don't get that classic movie vibe from it.
Okay.
Like, if I'm hearing on comments, like, where it's... I don't know. I just can't visualize myself, like, seeking out this movie that often. So... that's why it's middle of the road.
I think that's fair. I mean, for me, I liked the fact that it's kind of has this old Hollywood wrapping around it, especially with Neville being an actor and stuff like that, and that really worked for me. But I could understand how. I mean, obviously, it didn't make a huge splash in terms of like the real world in which it was made. So it definitely must have something about it that just falls flat for I guess, a wide audience.
Yeah.
But yeah. And I mean, it's a 3.3 repeating overall, so I don't think that's a terrible rating for this. I definitely had fun with it. So
yeah, I mean, I don't want to say it's an awful movie.
Yeah.
It's just a movie.
Yeah, we're gonna move on, and we'll probably forget about the Rocketeer.
Yeah, and I did.
Right.
That's exactly how this happened. I saw it back in the 90s and hadn't really thought about it, except when I saw a hood ornament that kind of looked like it. But that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably a good place to start wrapping up. Jason, why don't you take it away and let everyone know where they can find you and hear you?
Yeah, well, I mean, if you want to, don't feel that you have to. But the easiest way to find me is probably on Instagram as Jason CFB Podcast, and basically I just run the podcast for my local CrossFit gym, and it's me using the coaches and the owners and sort of all the experience that they've gained through years of fitness and training people. So we talk about diet and sleep and kind of all the other trappings around healthy lifestyle. So it doesn't have a massive connection to movies, but if you're ever interested to know on some tricks and tips to help live a healthier life, you can find it. It's the CrossFit Bath podcast. Bath is the city in the UK that I live in, and it's not the tub. So we've got to stress that is
so you
an
don't
important.
Do CrossFit in a bath. Okay.
I definitely, no, most of the times I don't. Okay. But yeah, so and we're now going to be on YouTube as well, because I've realized probably for the foreseeable few months I'll be recording everything online anyway. So I'm just going to make people keep their cameras on, and we're on YouTube as well. So you can find it on Spotify, iTunes, all of those things. I'm sure Travis will put the Linktree link or something in the description. That's the easiest way.
Yeah.
Yeah. How can you find me? Easiest way. Look in the description of this podcast.
There you go.
There I am.
Yeah, and that makes sense. A lot of people are looking to do workouts now that they're stuck in their houses and stuff, based on the current time we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, if that is the case, I probably shouldn't say this, but my gym actually program every day a home workout that you can do without any equipment. So if anybody is looking for something to do at home to stop themselves going crazy, you can just find all the links to their website through my podcast and that, and you have a different workout every day that you can just do at home, so you can still get a little bit of exercise while locked indoors.
That's really cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Thank you for being our guest on this. I mean, I can't remember if you said this on the recording, but you've been on the list for this episode for a long time now, and we finally got here. But I'm glad that you were still interested. When I reached back out. So.
Yeah, and I think when I put my name down, I probably still thought it was a good movie. I was like, oh yeah, I remember The Rocketeer. I love that movie.
That's what this podcast does. It reminds you that you had horrible taste as a child.
Yeah, so I apologize to all the people that clearly did love this movie, and I'm like, why did they get him on? This makes no sense.
Always good to have a different point of view.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess we'll be back with should be a classic.
It better be.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day.
Yes.
I think that's one most people like. I guess we'll see if we're going to ruin that as well.
I'm pretty sure that still holds up as everyone's number one, favorite Terminator movie. So
I always hear it in the context that it's one of the rare great sequels.
Yeah.
That and Godfather Part 2.
Right.
Before, we started having all kinds of universes and things like that.
Sure.
Because prior to that, it was a lot of straight-to-video sequels. So I think Terminator 2 has always been seen as one of the reasons to have a sequel, I guess.
Yeah.
So we'll be back with T2.
For sure. We might do a character review between now and then. Not sure, but that'll definitely be the next movie review.
Full movie, yeah.
Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Day of Judgment.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I think that'll do it. And I guess until then, everyone wash your hands.
Yeah, and stop putting gum everywhere for crying out loud. Jeez.
Same make.
These were taken at the West Highland Police Station, 1984. You were there.
Same model.
These were taken today.
You have to let me see my son. He's in great danger.
New mission. Once, he was programmed to destroy the future.
You don't know what it's like to try to kill one of these things.
Now, his mission...
Get down.
...is to protect it.
Mom! Come with me if you want to live.
You're really real.
His loyalty is to a child.
Who sent you?
You did. 35 years from now.
And his enemy...
He's a Terminator like you, right?
Not like me.
...is the deadliest machine ever built.
Can it be destroyed?
Unknown.
This time, there are two. Terminator 2.
You just can't go around killing people.
Why?
If you thought you had seen it all, look again.
Stay down!
Go! Now!
We gotta stick together!
Arnold Schwarzenegger. Terminator 2, Judgment Day. This time, he's back. For good.
Trust me.
Thanks for listening to the podcast. Find the show on Facebook and Twitter at Real Comic Heroes. All music and audio are the property of their respective creators.